Jesus Christ, you two should just kiss already. The entire table went quiet for exactly half a second before Dylan turned toward me. You heard her. I nearly inhaled my champagne. Excuse me. Apparently we've been given instructions. He leaned closer, perfectly calm. That was Dylan's most irritating quality. Nothing embarrassed him. Meanwhile, someone saying my name too loudly could make me reconsider every decision since birth. Here, he asked. I looked around the engagement party. 12 of our closest friends were watching us with the focused anticipation of people who had consumed free alcohol and discovered unexpected entertainment. Absolutely, I said. Give them a show. Dylan's eyebrow lifted. Careful, Morgan. Why? You might enjoy it. Laughter exploded around the table. I pointed at him. See? Coward. Dylan smiled. Keep talking. And there it was. The joke. Our joke. One of approximately 8,000 jokes Dylan Hayes and I had accumulated during 6 years of friendship. We had met freshman year when he stole my seat in Intro to Psychology, and I informed him I would hold the grudge until one of us died. 3 weeks later, he had my coffee order memorized. 6 months later, he had a key to my dorm room. 6 years later, he was my emergency contact, my designated airport driver, and the person most likely to receive texts like, "Is this mole concerning?" at 2 in the morning. Somewhere along the way, pretending we were dating became part of the arrangement. Honey, we need milk. Ask your other husband. You're prettier than my other husband. Completely normal heterosexual male friendship. Except neither of us was straight, which made the joke simultaneously funnier and significantly more dangerous. Not that it was dangerous. Obviously, Dylan was Dylan. My best friend. The human equivalent of finding your favorite hoodie exactly where you left it. Familiar. Safe. Occasionally smelled questionable. I need another drink, Dylan said, standing. Running away? Protecting your dignity. That ship sailed freshman year. True. He squeezed the back of my neck as he passed. Casual. Friendly. His thumb brushed just below my hairline. My entire nervous system reacted like someone had thrown a toaster into a bathtub, which was ridiculous. Dylan touched me all the time. Shoulder bumps. Headlocks. The occasional arm around me when we were drunk. Nothing romantic. That was practically the constitution of our friendship. We could joke about anything because neither of us ever crossed the line. Caleb. I looked up. Emma, newly engaged and therefore apparently licensed to interfere in everyone else's romantic life, was staring at me. What? Do you actually know which part of that is the joke anymore? I laughed. She didn't. Rude. All of it. Really? Yes. So if Dylan had kissed you just now, I would have sued. For emotional damages. Possibly beard burn. Emma took a sip of champagne. You looked disappointed when he walked away. I was thirsty. He took the bottle. Caleb. Emma. She gave me the expression people use when they believe they understand your life better than you do. Unfortunately, Emma was often correct, which made her unbearable. You've been doing this for years, she said. Doing what? Flirting with each other and calling it a joke. We don't flirt. Across the room, Dylan caught my eye from the bar. He held up 2 drinks, silently asking which one I wanted. I pointed left. He shook his head and handed me the right one when he returned. Left one had gin, he said. You hate gin. See? Emma said. See what? Nothing. She stood. I'm going to enjoy watching this implode. Your friendship is very supportive. Congratulations in advance. On what? She just smiled and walked away. Dylan dropped into the chair beside me. What was that about? Apparently we're secretly in love. He took a drink. Again. Again. Should we tell people? About our devastating affair? Obviously. I leaned toward him. Maybe after dessert. Good. I hate making announcements hungry. I laughed, and Dylan smiled at me. Not the sarcastic one. The small one. The one that softened his whole face. For one strange second, Emma's question returned. Do you actually know which part of that is the joke anymore? I looked at Dylan's mouth. Just briefly. Long enough to imagine what would have happened if he hadn't walked away. Long enough for my chest to tighten. Then Dylan nudged my knee beneath the table. You okay? Perfect. I lifted my glass. To our fake relationship. His eyes stayed on mine as he tapped his glass against mine. Best one I've ever had. I laughed because that was what I was supposed to do. Dylan did too. But neither of us looked away. And for the first time in 6 years, I wondered whether the joke had only stayed funny because neither of us had ever been brave enough to finish it. You know you have your own apartment, right? Dylan asked without looking up from his laptop. I stood in front of his refrigerator holding a carton of orange juice. That sounds like something a man says when he doesn't want me drinking his juice. That sounds like something a man says when another grown adult has been in his apartment for 40 minutes without knocking. I have a key. Unfortunately, I poured myself a glass. You gave me the key. For emergencies. Low vitamin C is an emergency. Dylan finally looked at me. You're exhausting. And yet you keep me around. Court order. This was us. 6 years of friendship compressed into one Tuesday evening. Me stealing groceries while Dylan pretended to object. After Emma's question at the engagement party, I had spent 2 days being aggressively normal around him, which, as it turned out, required thinking constantly about whether I was acting normal. Very relaxing. I dropped onto the couch beside him and stole one of his fries. What are you working on? Budget. Boring. Some of us have jobs. I have a job. You spent 20 minutes today texting me pictures of a pigeon. He had presents. Dylan closed the laptop. How was your date? I groaned. We're not discussing that. That bad. He said his favorite movie was whatever has the highest Rotten Tomatoes score. Dylan looked genuinely offended. You left immediately, right? I stayed for dessert because I have principles. Your principles are cheesecake. They've never failed me. Dylan reached for a fry. I slapped his hand away. Mine. He stared at me. They came from my kitchen. Marriage is about sharing. We're married now. Emotionally. Terrifying. I grinned. You'd make a terrible husband anyway. I cook for you. Bare minimum. You have a key to my apartment. Trust issues. I'm your emergency contact. Administrative oversight. Dylan leaned back, folding his arms. Anything else, honey? There it was. Honey. He had called me that for years whenever I became especially annoying. Normally, I answered automatically. This time, Emma's voice appeared in my head like an unwanted podcast. Which part is the joke? Don't honey me, I said. Dylan's expression shifted for half a second. Okay, why did that feel wrong? I grabbed another fry. I mean, unless you're apologizing. For what? Your personality. There he is. The tension vanished. Mostly. Later, we watched a terrible action movie because Dylan claimed explosions improved my mood. Halfway through, I stretched out across the couch and put my feet in his lap. He shoved them off. I put them back. Boundaries, he said. We passed boundaries somewhere around sophomore year. Your feet are freezing. Warm them. I'm not your boyfriend. You're doing a convincing internship. Dylan rolled his eyes, but left my feet there. I smiled at the television. Safe. Easy. This was why the joke worked. We could say anything. Fake proposals. Fake jealousy. Fake domestic arguments. None of it mattered because there were rules. We never kissed. Never held hands unless one of us was pulling the other through a crowd. Never touched in a way that required explanation. Words could go anywhere because our bodies never followed. Eventually, I sat upright, shoulder pressed against Dylan's. Somewhere during the third unnecessary car explosion, my head found his shoulder. If you drool on me, you're paying rent, he said. Put it on our joint account. We don't have one. Not with that attitude. I closed my eyes. Dylan was warm. Familiar. His t-shirt smelled like detergent and whatever cedar-scented soap he always bought. Caleb, you falling asleep? No, you answered with your eyes closed. Advanced technique. I expected him to shove me upright. He didn't. Instead, he shifted slightly so my neck rested more comfortably against him. Something soft landed over me. The blanket from the back of the couch. I opened one eye. Are you tucking me in? No, feels domestic. You were shivering. Boyfriend behavior. Dylan went quiet. I opened both eyes. He was staring at the television, but his jaw had tightened slightly. Dylan, what? Nothing. I closed my eyes again. His hand rested beside mine on the couch cushion. Maybe an inch apart. Close enough that moving one finger would have changed something. Neither of us moved. When I woke later, the television had gone dark. Dylan was asleep too, his head tilted against mine. The blanket covered both of us now. His hand had shifted sometime during the night. His little finger rested against mine, barely touching, completely innocent. I should have moved. Instead, I stayed perfectly still, listening to him breathe, suddenly aware of a rule we had never actually spoken aloud. We could joke about being boyfriends as much as we wanted, because we never did anything that made the joke real. And lying there beneath the same blanket, with Dylan's finger touching mine in the dark, I found myself wondering what would happen if one of us finally broke it. I think I've officially retired from dating. Dylan glanced at me from the driver's seat. That lasted what, 3 months? 4, actually. Please respect my sacrifice. You went on 6 dates. Exactly. I've suffered enough. Rain dotted the windshield while we sat beneath the yellow lights of a nearly empty burger place parking lot. 20 minutes earlier, I had been standing outside a restaurant pretending not to care that my date had texted sorry. Something came up after leaving me alone at a table for 45 minutes. Then I'd made the mistake of texting Dylan. Hypothetically, how pathetic is it to get stood up on a Thursday? He arrived 12 minutes later. No questions, no pity, just fries, 2 milkshakes, and get in, loser. Now we were sitting on the hood of his car beneath the awning, sharing fries while rain whispered against the asphalt. Maybe something really did come up, Dylan said. Yeah, probably another man. His loss. Correct answer. I stole 3 fries from his carton. You're learning. Dylan looked at me sideways. You okay? There it was. The real question beneath the easy one. I shrugged. My ego has sustained moderate structural damage. Caleb, I'm fine. You make more jokes when you're not fine. I stopped chewing. That is slander. It's 6 years of evidence. Annoyingly, he was right. I looked across the parking lot instead. Headlights smeared across the wet pavement. I just hate this part, I admitted. What part? Starting over. Meeting somebody. Explaining myself. Figuring out whether they actually like me or just like the version of me they met during appetizers. Dylan was quiet. Then eventually you find out they think your laugh is annoying, or your apartment is messy, or you talk too much when you're nervous. You do talk too much when you're nervous. I turned. This is supposed to be supportive. I like that you talk too much. The joke waiting in my mouth disappeared. Dylan looked down at his fries like he hadn't said anything unusual. My chest did something inconvenient. See, I said, recovering. This is why you'd make a better boyfriend than every guy I date. Obviously, you already know all my defects. Extensively documented. You know my coffee order. Unfortunately, you bring emergency fries. Medical necessity. You've seen me cry during a dog food commercial. The dog came home. He did. I pointed a fry at him. Maybe I should just date you. Usually, that was where Dylan laughed. Usually, he'd say something like, finally, you're making sense, or I'm out of your league. Instead, he looked directly at me. Maybe you should. The rain suddenly sounded louder. I laughed because that was what I did when a moment became too real. Wow. Confident. Dylan didn't laugh. You brought it up. As a joke. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Something changed in his face. Barely. A door closing quietly. Right, he said. Obviously. My stomach dropped. Dylan, relax. He nudged my shoulder. I know. There it was again. The escape hatch. Joke. Obviously. Relax. Words we could use whenever we accidentally wandered too close to something neither of us wanted to name. I stared at his profile. Rain reflected silver across his cheek. You'd be terrible anyway, I said, trying to restore the universe. At dating you? Yeah. How? Too controlling. I told you to wear a coat because it was 38 degrees. Oppressive. You forgot your coat. Irrelevant. Anything else? You steal blankets. You sleep diagonally. I require space. You're 5'10". Emotionally, I'm 6'3". Dylan finally laughed. Relief moved through me so quickly it was embarrassing. There. Normal again. Except I couldn't forget those 2 seconds before I ruined it. Maybe you should. He had meant it. Or maybe I wanted him to have meant it, which was considerably worse. Dylan reached across me for the ketchup packet beside my thigh. His arm brushed mine. Familiar contact. Nothing. Everything. You have ketchup on your face, he said. Where? Hold still. Before I could react, his thumb brushed the corner of my mouth. My entire body went silent. Dylan's hand stopped. His thumb stayed there for one impossible second. His eyes dropped to my mouth. Mine dropped to his. No joke arrived. No sarcastic comment rescued us. Then Dylan pulled his hand away. Got it. Thanks. My voice sounded wrong. He climbed off the hood. Come on. I'll take you home. I followed, suddenly too aware of him. At my apartment, he walked me to the door, even though he had watched me survive that exact 15-foot journey hundreds of times. Thanks for tonight, I said. Anytime. Seriously, you're annoyingly good at the whole boyfriend thing. Dylan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Good night, Caleb. He turned away. Dylan. He looked back. I almost asked, About the parking lot. About maybe you should. About his thumb against my mouth. Instead, fear handed me another joke. If we're both single at 30, the offer still stands. Dylan studied me for a long moment. Sure. Then he walked toward his car. I closed my apartment door and leaned against it, annoyed with myself for reasons I refused to examine. The problem wasn't that Dylan and I joked about dating each other. The problem was that lately, every joke seemed to leave behind a question. And every time Dylan came close to answering it, I was the one who laughed first. 6 years, and you still haven't kissed me. Honestly, I'm starting to take it personally. Dylan stopped halfway through lifting a slice of cold pizza to his mouth. What? You heard me. I stretched my legs across his living room floor and leaned back against the couch, pretending my heartbeat hadn't immediately betrayed me. Outside, rain hammered the windows hard enough to blur the city lights into streaks of yellow and white. We had escaped Tyler's house party 20 minutes earlier after the weather turned ugly, and now we were stranded at Dylan's apartment with leftover pizza, 2 beers, and the kind of late-night quiet that made bad ideas feel strangely reasonable. Dylan lowered the pizza. You're complaining because I haven't kissed you? I'm questioning your commitment to the bit. The bit. Our fake relationship. Try to keep up, honey. His eyes narrowed slightly. You've been weird about that lately. About what? The jokes. I am never weird. You once pretended to be Canadian for an entire date because you panicked. She asked where I was from. Things escalated. Dylan laughed, and relief loosened something in my chest. Good. Funny. Safe. I reached for another slice. Lightning flashed outside. The lights flickered. Romantic, I said. Should I light candles? Obviously. Then confess you've loved me since freshman year. Dylan went still for half a beat. I immediately smiled wider. Maybe put on music too. Really commit. You ever get tired of doing that? He asked. Eating pizza? Turning everything into a joke. My hand stopped. Wow. We're getting emotionally aggressive tonight. I'm serious. That's your first mistake. Dylan looked at me for several seconds, then shook his head and reached for his beer. I should have let it go. Instead, the memory of the parking lot returned. Maybe you should. His thumb at the corner of my mouth. The question I had buried beneath another joke. Besides, I said, you're the one who keeps threatening to kiss me. I've never threatened you. Engagement party. You call me a coward. Because you walked away. Dylan set his beer down. Did you want me not to? My mouth went dry. There were easy answers available. Dozens. I could have laughed. Called him dramatic. Thrown a napkin at him. Instead, I heard myself say, maybe. Dylan stared at me. The room changed. Same rain. Same pizza. Same best friend. Nothing was different except suddenly I could feel every inch of space between us. Maybe, he repeated. Don't make it weird. You brought it up. As part of a long-standing comedic tradition. Right. He looked away. That tiny withdrawal irritated me because apparently I had decided emotional self-destruction was tonight's activity. What? I asked. Nothing. No. Do the thing where you pretend nothing's wrong. Very healthy. You want honesty? Terrible idea, but sure. Dylan turned toward me. I can't tell when you mean anything anymore. The joke died before reaching my mouth. What's that supposed to mean? You say maybe you should date me. Then you say it's a joke. You complain I haven't kissed you. Then the second I ask whether you actually want me to, you hide again. My pulse hammered. I'm not hiding. Okay. Don't okay me. Then answer. Dylan's voice was calm. Mine was not. Answer what? He shifted closer. Do you want me to kiss you? There it was. No punchline. No audience. No way to pretend I hadn't heard him. I looked at his mouth, which was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was imagining it. Mistake number 3 was realizing I had imagined it before. Many times. You wouldn't, I said. Dylan's expression changed. That's not an answer. Fear climbed into my throat and did what fear always did. It found humor. I smiled. Coward. Dylan put his pizza down. Slowly. My smile faltered. Dylan. He stood. For one absurd second, I thought he was leaving. Instead, he crossed the small space between us and stopped directly in front of me. Say it again. I looked up at him. What? Call me a coward. My heartbeat was now attempting property damage. You're being ridiculous. Caleb. His voice was lower. Say it. I swallowed. Coward. Dylan reached down, caught my hand, and pulled me to my feet. I stumbled close enough that my chest nearly hit his. His hand stayed around mine. Warm. Familiar. Completely different. Last chance, he said. Tell me to stop. I should have said something clever. Instead, I whispered, I didn't ask you to. His free hand touched the side of my neck. Then Dylan kissed me. Every joke I had ever made about this vanished. There was nothing funny about the way my fingers automatically gripped his shirt, or the quiet breath he made when I kissed him back. Nothing accidental about the way his thumb moved beneath my jaw. He kissed me carefully at first, like 6 years of friendship were balanced between us. Then I pulled him closer. The kiss deepened for one dizzying second before we both seemed to remember who we were. We separated. Barely. Dylan's forehead rested against mine. Rain filled the silence. I could feel his breath against my mouth. Well, I whispered, because apparently some part of me was determined to die exactly as it had lived. That happened. Dylan didn't smile. His eyes stayed on mine. Still funny. And for the first time in 6 years, I had absolutely no joke left. So apparently we can cross kissing off the friendship bucket list. Dylan's hand stopped above the coffee mug. It was the first thing I said the next morning, which should tell you everything you need to know about my survival instincts. Sunlight pushed through the blinds of his apartment, offensively cheerful considering I had spent most of the night on his couch replaying approximately 12 seconds of kissing like investigators examining security footage. Dylan had gone to bed sometime after 1. I had stayed awake until nearly 4, staring at the ceiling and remembering his hand against my neck. Friendship bucket list? He repeated. Yeah. I sat up and attempted to make my hair resemble something belonging to a person with emotional stability. We tried it. Very educational. Mystery solved. Dylan looked at me. Mystery. 6 years of everyone telling us to kiss. Now we can confidently report back. Why was I still talking? Someone should have tackled me. Turns out kissing your best friend is exactly as weird as advertised. There. That was the sentence. I watched it land. Something in Dylan's face closed. Not dramatically. Dylan never did anything dramatically. His shoulders simply settled, and his eyes dropped to the coffee. Sure, he said. One word. Somehow worse than yelling. I mean, not bad weird. Stop. Just unexpected weird. Caleb. Stop. Obviously you're technically competent. Dear God. Dylan turned toward the counter. Coffee. Please. He poured mine without asking how I took it. He didn't need to. 2 sugars, too much cream. 6 years. He said it in front of me without the usual. Your liquid dessert, princess. No honey. No insult. Nothing. I told myself I was relieved. We had crossed a line, acknowledged it, and now we were returning safely to friendship territory. Excellent. Mature. Exactly what I wanted. So why did the apartment suddenly feel colder? 3 days later, I let myself into Dylan's place with my key. Honey, I'm home. I called automatically. Silence. Dylan appeared from the hallway. Hey, that's all I get. What? Nothing. I held up takeout. I brought Thai. Thanks. He smiled, but it was polite. Dylan had never been polite to me in his life. It was horrifying. We ate on the couch. Normally, I stole from his plate, and he threatened legal action. This time, he passed me the container when I asked. Passed it. Like coworkers. During the movie, I put my feet near his lap out of habit. Dylan shifted, reaching for his drink, and I pulled them back before they touched him. Neither of us mentioned it. On Thursday, he texted good night instead of good night, husband. Friday, I sent him a picture of an aggressively ugly lamp with the caption perfect for our future home. He reacted with a laughing emoji. An emoji. 6 years of friendship, and I had been reduced to digital customer service. By Saturday, I was furious. Not at him, obviously. At the situation. At myself. At emojis as a concept. Emma noticed during brunch. Why do you look like somebody canceled Christmas? Dylan used the thumbs up reaction on me. She lowered her coffee. Oh my God. Thank you. No, I mean oh my God, you're in love with him. That is an irresponsible diagnosis. Did something happen? No, she stared. Define no. Nothing happened. Caleb. Fine. We kissed. Emma's mouth fell open. You what? Keep your voice down. When? Tuesday. And you waited 4 days to tell me? I was busy processing. By processing, you mean panicking and saying something stupid. I stared at her. I don't appreciate how well you know me. What did you say? I suddenly became interested in my napkin. I may have described it as crossing something off the friendship bucket list. Emma closed her eyes. Caleb. I panicked. And Dylan. Said sure. Her expression softened. And now, I looked at my phone. No new messages. Now he's normal. The word hurt coming out. Except he isn't. He doesn't call me honey. He doesn't steal my food. He barely touches me. Emma was quiet. Maybe he thinks that's what you wanted. Why would I want that? The question escaped before I could protect myself from it. Emma didn't answer. She didn't have to. That night, Dylan came over to watch basketball. He knocked. Knocked. Despite having a key. I opened the door and stared at him. Why didn't you come in? Didn't want to assume. Another tiny cut. Since when? Dylan shrugged and walked past me. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. The space between us could have qualified for its own zip code. Halfway through the game, I realized something awful. I had spent days telling myself I wanted everything to go back to normal. But normal had been Dylan's knee against mine. His hand stealing fries from my plate. His stupid pet names. His head against mine when we fell asleep. The kiss hadn't destroyed any of that. My fear had. Dylan stood after the game. I should go. Already. Early morning. Right. He reached the door. I wanted to say something. Come back. Stay. Kiss me again. Anything true. Instead, nothing came. Night, Caleb. Night. The door closed behind him. I stood alone in my apartment, finally understanding what I had actually crossed off our friendship bucket list. It wasn't kissing Dylan. It was pretending everything between us had always been a joke. And now that Dylan had stopped joking, I could hear exactly how much I missed what we had never admitted was real. You stopped calling me husband. Emma nearly dropped her fork. That's how you're opening this conversation? I'm practicing. For what? Talking to Dylan without emotionally combusting. She stared at me across the diner table. Maybe start with something less insane. Like what? Hello. Dylan, I've recently discovered that your refusal to steal my French fries has triggered a personal crisis. Closer. I sank lower in the booth. It had been 9 days since the kiss. 9 days since I'd panicked and turned the most confusingly perfect 12 seconds of my life into a joke about a friendship bucket list. Since then, Dylan had become the nicest stranger I'd ever known. He still texted, still answered when I called, still remembered I had a presentation Thursday, and sent good luck beforehand. But the things that had always existed underneath the friendship were disappearing one by one. He no longer walked into my apartment without knocking. He stopped taking food from my plate. When we crossed busy streets, his hand no longer landed automatically between my shoulder blades. No honey, no husband, no fake proposals, no jokes about adopting 3 dogs and arguing over custody. I had spent 6 years believing those things meant nothing. Apparently nothing had been doing an incredible amount of emotional heavy lifting. I miss him, I admitted. Emma's expression softened. You see him constantly. That's the problem. I looked down at my coffee. He's still there. But he's not there. Saturday proved it. Our friends met at Tyler's apartment for game night, and Dylan arrived 20 minutes after me. Normally, he would have dropped beside me on the couch regardless of available seating. Instead, he sat in an armchair across the room. Seriously? I asked before I could stop myself. Dylan looked up. What? I gestured toward the empty cushion beside me. Nothing. Excellent communication, Caleb. 10 out of 10. Later, someone ordered pizza. I automatically reached for the slice with mushrooms and handed it toward Dylan before remembering he could get his own food like some emotionally independent psychopath. Dylan stared at the plate. You remembered. You always eat mushrooms. Yeah. He took it carefully, making sure our fingers didn't touch. That somehow hurt more than if he'd refused it. During charades, Emma pulled the card newlyweds. Easy, Tyler said. Just point at Caleb and Dylan. Everyone laughed. I looked at Dylan instinctively. Once, he would have put an arm around me and said something obnoxious like we're registered at Crate and Barrel. This time, he only smiled. Very funny. The room moved on. I didn't. The joke was gone. And without it, I could finally see what it had been hiding. On Tuesday, I found Dylan's hoodie hanging over the back of my desk chair. Gray, soft, sleeves slightly too long. I had stolen it months ago and forgotten it belonged to him. I picked it up, intending to fold it. Instead, I stood there holding it like a Victorian widow awaiting news from sea. Pathetic. I put it on. Worse. It smelled faintly like his detergent. Much worse. My phone buzzed. Dylan, dinner Thursday? My heart jumped before dignity could intervene. Me, is this a date? I stared at the message. There it was again. The old reflex. Turn the question into a joke before it could hurt. 3 dots appeared. Dylan, just dinner. The disappointment was immediate enough to be clarifying. I typed, sure. Thursday night. We ate tacos at the place near his office. Conversation was easy in the way conversations become easy when two people carefully avoid the only subject that matters. Work. Emma's wedding plans. Tyler's terrible haircut. Everything except us. When we stepped outside, cold air hit my face. Dylan shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. You need a ride? I walked. I know. Of course you do. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. You keep saying that. I laughed once. You want to know what's weird? You know everything about me. You know when I walk places. You know how I take coffee. You know I hate gin and love terrible disaster movies. But now you act like touching my shoulder requires written consent. Dylan's face went still. I thought that was what you wanted. Why? Because you called kissing me something to cross off a list. There it was. No joke available. I panicked. Dylan looked away. Okay. Stop saying okay. What do you want me to say? I opened my mouth. Nothing came. Because the answer was terrifyingly simple. I wanted his key turning in my lock. His feet on my coffee table. His fries disappearing from my plate. His hand at the back of my neck. His mouth on mine. I wanted everything I had spent 6 years pretending was funny. I don't know, I said, because cowardice remained a thriving industry. Dylan nodded. Then figure it out. He walked me home anyway. At my building, he stopped beneath the entrance light. Good night, Caleb. No honey. No husband. Just my name. I watched him leave and finally understood the truth I had been avoiding. The kiss hadn't ruined our friendship. Pretending it meant nothing had. And if I wanted Dylan back, not the careful version standing 3 feet away, but my Dylan, I was going to have to do something we had almost never done with each other. I was going to have to say what I meant without leaving myself a punchline to hide behind. Already replacing me? Dylan stopped with one hand on his apartment door. He was wearing the dark blue button-down he usually reserved for weddings, job interviews, and occasions where somebody's grandmother might judge him. His hair was actually styled. He smelled like that stupid cedar cologne I had once told him made him unfairly attractive. None of this was evidence of anything. My stomach treated it like a crime scene. What? He asked. Nothing. Great start. I had come here determined to speak honestly. Apparently honesty had seen Dylan dressed nicely and fled the building. His eyes narrowed. You came over unannounced to say nothing? I have a key, which you didn't use. I'm respecting boundaries now. Apparently, we're very into those. Dylan exhaled. Caleb. I looked past him into the apartment. Going somewhere. Yeah. Big plans. Dinner. With. His eyebrow lifted. Why? Conversation. Humans do it. My sister. Relief hit me so violently I almost laughed. Then Dylan added. And some friends. My relief immediately filed for bankruptcy. Friends. Yes, Caleb. I have those. Debatable. What is happening right now? Nothing. There's that word again. He folded his arms. You've been acting weird since dinner. I've been acting weird since approximately 1999. You know what I mean. I did. I also knew I was staring at his shirt like it had personally betrayed me. You look nice. Thanks. Suspiciously nice. It's my sister's birthday. Right. I nodded. Of course. Maybe she invited someone. Dylan stared at me. Someone. A person. Most dinners involve people. A guy. Silence. Oh no. Dylan's expression changed slowly. Are you asking if I'm going on a date? No, you absolutely are. I'm gathering information. Why? Because the thought of you kissing someone else makes me want to walk directly into traffic. Difficult sentence. I tried another. Just curious. Dylan looked exhausted. You don't get to do this. That stopped me. Do what? Act jealous. I'm not jealous. Then why are you standing in my hallway interrogating me about my shirt? It's a very aggressive shirt. Caleb. Fine. My pulse kicked harder. Maybe I'm a little jealous. Dylan went completely still. There. A true sentence. Horrible experience. Would not recommend. Why? He asked. I don't know. His jaw tightened. Then figure it out. Can you stop saying that? Can you stop expecting me to translate you? The words hit harder than I expected. I'm trying. Are you? Yes. Because from where I'm standing, you kissed me back, called it weird the next morning, spent a week acting like nothing happened, and now you're angry because you imagined I might be seeing somebody. I wasn't angry. You accused my shirt of having intentions. It knows what it did. Dylan didn't laugh. That hurt. I looked down. I thought you regretted it. His expression shifted. What? The kiss. Saying it made my throat tighten. You got distant afterward. You stopped touching me. Stopped joking. I thought you wished it hadn't happened. Dylan stared at me like I had announced I'd been living under an assumed identity. Caleb, you called it something to cross off a friendship bucket list. Because I panicked. I thought you were telling me it meant nothing. I thought your sure meant you regretted it. My sure meant I was trying not to look like an idiot after kissing my best friend and hearing him describe it as an experiment. Oh, that seems relevant. You think. In retrospect, communication could have been stronger. Incredible insight. Despite everything, I almost smiled. So you didn't regret it? Dylan looked at me for a long moment. No, one word. My heartbeat stumbled. Not even a little? Not even a little. The hallway suddenly felt too narrow. Then why did you stop everything else? Because I thought that's what you wanted. His voice softened. You made it sound like we crossed a line and needed to go back. So I tried to give you space. I hated the space. Dylan's eyes held mine. I noticed. Of course you did. I rubbed both hands over my face. God, we're idiots. Mostly you. Comforting. He almost smiled. Almost. Then his expression became serious again. What do you want, Caleb? There it was. The question I had avoided for 6 years. My instinct immediately searched for a joke. Fake marriage. Boyfriend internship. Something easy. Nothing came that didn't feel cowardly now. I don't know what to call it yet, I said. But I know I don't want you dating somebody else. Dylan stayed silent. I know I miss you even though I see you all the time. I miss you stealing my food. I miss you walking into my apartment without knocking. I miss you calling me husband, which is humiliating to admit. His mouth twitched. Very. And I know I keep thinking about kissing you again. That erased the smile. Dylan inhaled slowly. Caleb, I was scared. My voice came quieter. I still am. For once, I didn't cover it with anything. Dylan looked at me, and something in his face finally softened. So was I. I swallowed. You were. You're my best friend. You think I wasn't terrified? You looked annoyingly calm. I've had years of practice dealing with you. I laughed, small and shaky. Dylan glanced at his watch. I'm already late. Right? Birthday dinner. I stepped back. Go. He reached for the door, then paused. Tomorrow. What about tomorrow? His eyes met mine. Come over. We talk. No jokes. My stomach flipped. That sounds horrifying. Caleb. I caught myself. No escape route. Okay. Dylan nodded. Then, almost automatically, his hand lifted toward the back of my neck. He stopped before touching me. I looked at his hand, then at him. Slowly, I closed the distance myself. His palms settled against my neck, warm and familiar. I nearly closed my eyes. Tomorrow, he repeated. Tomorrow. He left for dinner, and I stood alone in the hallway with my heart pounding. I had gone to Dylan's apartment terrified he was replacing me. Instead, I walked away knowing something far more frightening. There had never been anyone to replace. Whatever existed between us had been real long before either of us kissed. Tomorrow, for the first time, we were going to have to talk about it without pretending otherwise. No jokes, Dylan said the second he opened the door. I stared at him. I haven't even entered the apartment. Setting expectations early. That feels controlling. His expression flattened. I lifted both hands. Sorry. Reflex. I know. He stepped aside. Come in. I had walked into Dylan's apartment hundreds of times. Usually without knocking. Usually while announcing something useless like your favorite burden has arrived. Tonight, crossing the doorway felt like entering an interrogation room where the only suspect was my emotional stability. Dylan had ordered pizza. Of course he had. Same kind we always got. Half mushroom for him, half pepperoni for me. 2 beers waited on the coffee table. Familiar things arranged around a conversation neither of us knew how to have. I sat on the couch. Dylan sat beside me, leaving enough space between us to make me hate furniture. So I said, So, silence. This is terrible. We've been talking for 6 years. Not like this. Dylan looked down at his hands. That's kind of the problem. I swallowed. Okay, you first. Why me? You're emotionally older. By 11 months. A crucial 11 months. His eyebrow lifted. That was almost a joke. I'm tapering off. Dylan exhaled, but there was the beginning of a smile. Then it disappeared. Fine. He leaned forward, forearms against his knees. I started joking about wanting you because I actually wanted you. My brain stopped. No preparation. No warm-up. Just direct emotional violence. Oh, Sophomore year, maybe. Sophomore year. My voice cracked. You've been making fake boyfriend jokes for 5 years because you wanted to be my actual boyfriend? When you say it like that, it sounds pathetic. It sounds clinically insane. Dylan glanced at me. No jokes. That wasn't a joke. I'm genuinely alarmed. He laughed once, then rubbed his hands together. It was safe. If I called you honey and you rolled your eyes, fine. If I said we should get married and you laughed, fine. I could say something true and pretend it wasn't. The words settled heavily between us because I understood them immediately. Too immediately. An escape route, I said. Dylan nodded. Exactly. I looked at my hands. I did it too. I know. You know? Caleb, you once told a bartender I was your future ex-husband because he was flirting with me. He was annoying. You were jealous. Apparently. No joke this time. Just truth. Weirdly survivable. I think I kept telling myself it was funny because if I ever said it seriously, I struggled for the words. Dylan waited. Then you could say no seriously. His face softened. Yeah. And I could lose this. I gestured between us. You wouldn't have lost me. I didn't know that. Neither did I. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. The refrigerator hummed from the kitchen. A car passed outside. My pulse sounded absurdly loud. The parking lot, I said. When I said maybe I should date you. Yeah. You said maybe I should. I meant it. My chest tightened. I know that now. And then you laughed. I know. That sucked. I winced. I'm sorry. Dylan nodded. The morning after the kiss sucked worse. I know. You keep saying that. Because I keep discovering historical evidence of my stupidity. His mouth twitched. Caleb. Sorry. I took a breath. I was terrified because I liked it. Dylan went still. The kiss. No, your pizza. Yes, the kiss. His eyes narrowed. That was a joke. Tiny one. Medical necessity. You're impossible. Working on it. I turned toward him. I liked kissing you enough that the next morning I needed to make it meaningless before you could. Something in Dylan's expression broke open. I was never going to. I know that now too. So what do you want? There it was again. Except this time I had promised myself I would answer. No fake marriage. No boyfriend joke. No punchline waiting to rescue me. Dylan turned fully toward me. No jokes, he said softly. No escape route. Tell me what you want. My mouth went dry. 6 years of friendship seemed to gather in the room around us. Every stolen fry. Every late night call. Every fake pet name. Every time we had said something true and laughed before the other person could examine it. I looked directly at him. You. Dylan didn't move. I want you. Saying it was terrifying. Then, unexpectedly, it wasn't. The ceiling didn't collapse. Dylan didn't disappear. He was still there. So I kept going. I want the stupid husband jokes. I want your key in my apartment door. I want you stealing my food and telling me to wear a coat. And I want to kiss you without pretending afterward that it was some experiment. Dylan's eyes dropped briefly to my mouth. Anything else? Probably. I'm new at honesty. He moved closer. Can I kiss you? My heart kicked hard. Yes. Dylan's hand touched my jaw. And this time there was no challenge, no coward, no dare. He kissed me because he asked and I said yes. I grabbed the front of his shirt and pulled him closer because apparently honesty had side effects. When we separated, we were both breathing harder. His forehead rested against mine. Still funny, he whispered. I remembered the first kiss. The question I couldn't answer. This time I smiled. No. I kissed him again, brief and deliberate. This part's real. Dylan's thumb brushed my cheek. Good. I leaned into him, finally letting the silence exist without trying to fill it. For years, we had treated every almost confession like a grenade and every joke like somewhere safe to hide. It turned out the truth wasn't what threatened our friendship. The hiding was. Dylan laced his fingers through mine. I looked down at our joined hands and laughed softly. What? He asked. Nothing. He gave me a warning look. I squeezed his hand. Actually, not nothing. I looked back at him. I'm happy. Dylan smiled. Me too. And for once, neither of us needed to make it funny. So are you two finally admitting you're dating? Or are we still pretending this is an elaborate 6-year comedy routine? Emma asked. I looked across the table at Dylan. He was already looking at me. 3 months ago, that question would have activated every emergency system in my body. I would have said something like dating? Please. He can't afford me. Dylan would have called me his high-maintenance husband. Everyone would laugh. Subject successfully buried beneath sarcasm. Tonight, Dylan simply reached beneath the table and took my hand. Yeah, I said. We're dating. Silence. Then Tyler slapped both hands against the table. I knew it. Everyone knew it. Emma said. You didn't discover electricity. I specifically predicted this. You predicted it for 6 years. Persistence is part of science. We were back at Emma and Mark's apartment for dinner, surrounded by most of the same people who had watched Dylan almost kiss me at their engagement party months earlier. Except now his thumb was moving lazily across my knuckles beneath the table, and I didn't feel any urge to pretend it wasn't happening. I'd like it officially recorded, I said, that Dylan seduced me. Dylan nearly choked on his drink. You called me a coward until I kissed you. Manipulative seduction. You kissed me back. Under duress. Dylan turned toward the group. He grabbed my shirt. Allegedly. Emma groaned. Nothing has changed. That's not true, Tyler said. They touch more now. Please never observe us again, I said. Dylan laughed and squeezed my hand. That was the strange part about becoming boyfriends. Almost nothing changed, and somehow everything did. I still had a key to his apartment. He still stole food from my plate. We still argued about movies, groceries, and whether my habit of leaving cabinet doors open constituted a character flaw. But now, when Dylan called me honey, I knew there was no escape hatch hidden behind it. When I told him he looked good, I didn't immediately ruin it with an insult. Usually, growth needed realistic expectations. Remember the engagement party? Emma asked. Unfortunately, I said. I told you two to just kiss already. Dylan nodded. Terrible advice. Ruined my life, I added. He leaned over and kissed my temple. Tragic. My face warmed. Tyler pointed at me. He still blushes. I have a medical condition. It's called feelings, Emma said. Disgusting. Is there treatment? Dylan looked at me. I can think of something. Keep it family-friendly, Hayes. Everyone laughed. This time I laughed too, because humor wasn't the problem. It never had been. The problem was using it to erase whatever came immediately before it. Later, while everyone crowded around the kitchen for dessert, Dylan and I ended up alone on the balcony. City lights stretched beneath us. The night was cold enough that I regretted refusing the jacket Dylan had told me to bring. Naturally, I would die before admitting this. Dylan took off his jacket. No, you're shivering. I'm expressing myself physically. He draped it around my shoulders anyway. Oppressive, I muttered. You love me. The words landed softly. Dylan froze. So did I? We had been dating 3 months. We had kissed approximately enough times that I had stopped pretending to count. We slept tangled together on his couch. He had a toothbrush at my place. But neither of us had said that word yet. Dylan's expression changed. Sorry. I didn't mean to. I do. He stopped. My heart hammered, but I didn't laugh. Didn't look away. I love you. Saying it felt strangely familiar, like finally reading aloud something I had known by heart for years. Dylan stared at me. Caleb, no joke. His hand came up and touched my face. Good. That's your response. No, he smiled. I love you too. I kissed him before my nervous system could develop a new personality. His arms wrapped around me, jacket and all, and for a few seconds the party disappeared behind the glass. When we went back inside, Tyler immediately looked suspicious. What happened out there? Nothing, I said automatically. Dylan raised an eyebrow. I caught myself. Old habit. I smiled. Actually, something. Emma leaned forward. What? I looked at Dylan. None of your business. Coward, Dylan murmured. I laughed. Careful. We know what happens when you call me that. Later, as we were leaving, Emma followed us to the door. One last question, she said. Remember that whole if we're both single at 30 thing? Ancient history, I said. So the marriage deal is canceled? Dylan glanced at me. I don't know. Still getting married at 30. There it was, the kind of question we had spent years disguising as a joke. I looked at him, expecting the old instinct to appear. It didn't. Why wait? Dylan blinked. Caleb, relax. I'm not proposing in Emma's hallway. Rude, Emma said. I have excellent lighting. Dylan laughed and pulled me toward the elevator. Come on, husband. I went with him. Boyfriend. You haven't earned the promotion. Apparently I have until 30. Performance reviews are annual. The elevator doors opened. Dylan stepped inside, still holding my hand. You know what's funny? He asked. My personality? Debatable. He pulled me closer. We spent years joking about this. Yeah. And then it actually happened. I looked at him. The person who had been my best friend long before either of us was brave enough to want anything more out loud. Turns out we weren't very funny. Dylan smiled. Speak for yourself. The doors began to close. I kissed him before they did. Somewhere behind us, Emma shouted. Finally. I laughed against Dylan's mouth. We never stopped joking. We just stopped using the jokes to hide. And after 6 years of pretending the possibility of us was the funniest thing in the world, the truth turned out to be ridiculously simple. I loved my best friend. He loved me back. No punchline required.